Hi guys, welcome back to NarcAWAY's 5 Steps to Freedom. This is the third part in my 5-part mini-series. If you haven't already watched parts 1 and 2, go ahead and click up here now on the link. This is going to take you to part 1, and then watch part 2, and then come to this video here. This is part 3. My name is Amy, and this is NarcAWAY. My channel is devoted to educating, supporting, and encouraging victims and survivors of narcissistic abuse. So what is our third step in our 5 steps to freedom? The third step is act. So just to remind you, step 1 was identify, step 2 was accept, and step 3 is act. We need to take action. We need to move. And what that action looks like could be different for different situations. Ultimately, I'm going to say that your goal is to get away from the abuse, whatever that means to you. And if it's a romantic relationship, that means leaving the relationship. That means leaving your partner and establishing no contact. It really is the only way to get away from the abuse. You can't change your abuser. There's no amount of therapy or couples counseling that you're going to be able to do to change your situation. I'm going to tell you that right now. Save your money, save your time, save your energy, save your stress. Because if you go to counseling, the narcissist is going to talk in circles, they're going to future fake, and they're going to lie and tell you everything you want to hear just to get through it. And then as soon as you're done with the counseling, they're going to be back to their old ways. And anyone that's gone through counseling with an emotional abuser or narcissist, comment below and let me know if I'm wrong about that. Or share your stories if I'm right. I've never heard a successful outcome from a true abuser. They may get better for a period of time, but in the end, they go back to their old abusive ways. So it's time to take action. It's time to go. And this can take many months, even years, to put into place. And I was going to say this is the hardest step, but I think I've said that for each of the steps so far because they're all hard. None of them are easy. They're all hard in their own right. And I think depending on your situation and your personality and your abuser, different steps will be easier or harder depending on. So this, for me, was actually an easy step. Going was very easy in comparison to the first 2 steps, identifying and accepting. But it depends. If you own property together, if you have children together, if you work together, those are all going to complicate the matter. So it's time to make a plan. This step requires planning. In most scenarios, most people can't just pick up and go, pack up and go. Sometimes you can, and if your situation allows for that, all the power to you, and just do it. Don't even second think it. You've already gone through steps 1 and 2, so that has brought you to step 3. It's time to go. Pack your stuff and go. So what does acting look like? You want to talk to your closest friends and family, and you want to limit it just to your closest friends and closest family. You don't really want to get the word out. You don't want the rumor mill going. You don't want people asking you questions or even worse, trying to talk you out of it. That will happen. You're going to have some people say, well, is this really in your best interest? Is it really that bad? Maybe you can get through it. And the loving person in you is going to want to believe that, and there's a good chance you'll hinder your own progress by what other people have to say to you. So whoever you've selected as your closest go-to, your very closest people, whether this is your best friend or your mother or your adult children, whoever your closest, tightest circle is, and I'm talking like 1 or 2 or 3 people max, you want to talk to them, tell them what's going on, because this is also the most dangerous time to leave an abuser. And I cannot stress that enough. You can do the research on this separately, and you're going to see the statistics point to domestic violence and murders in domestic violence. The majority happen when the abuse victim is trying to leave the abuser. Abusers don't like to be told no. They do not like to not get their way. So by you leaving and showing your independence and making a decision without them is going to anger them. And they're not going to like it. And depending on how angry and how violent your abuser is, it can turn into physical violence and even murder. So you're going to need to tell people and have support. If you know already that there is a risk of physical violence to you, then go to the police and tell them ahead of time. You can get a police escort to help you get out of the house. If you have children or property, you're going to want to talk to a lawyer and get some legal advice on the best way to proceed that is going to make sure everything falls in your best interest. You're going to need the emotional support and the backers who are going to push you and nudge you and not let you back out once you've made that decision. You're going to want to have people that have a second eye, that are not emotionally in the game. You are emotionally involved. If you could get a third party, a parent or a friend who is not in your relationship, they're going to see things clearer than you. They're not going to act on emotion. They are going to be very logical about the situation, and that's going to help you. That will be a great benefit to you in this step. So you're going to want to reach out. The chances are, while you're in this abusive relationship, you've lost a lot of friends and family maybe. You tend to distance yourself from people when you're going through abuse. So it could feel counterintuitive at this point to actually reach out. It can be very difficult. And I know that it is. And especially if you have ever caught flack when you have tried to reach out in the past and people have negated your feelings or not supported you, it's very hard to do again. But I don't recommend you do it by yourself. So now this step should be actually a little bit shorter in length than the first two. The first two steps I said can take months or years. This step generally will take just a few weeks to months. It's very quick. Once you make that decision to go, you just have to get your ducks in a row and go. The only thing that would prolong it is if you're changing your mind, if you're going back and forth. But once you make that decision to act, you need to get the ball rolling. So priorities are, where are you going to live? If you live with your abuser, you need to find somewhere to stay, whether it's going to be at a friend's or your parents' house for a little while, whether you have the means to get your own house or apartment, or even if you need to go to a shelter. There are places to help you, and you need to find those and figure out where you're going to go. Then you have to find out the legality if you have children. If you're going to need to apply for custody, if the narcissist is going to be at risk for kidnapping your children, you're going to need to make sure safeguards are in place there. You're going to need to talk to lawyers and talk to the authorities as necessary. So make sure you do that. It's very important. Once you're away from your abuser, the fog lifts. So FOG is actually an acronym for fear, obligation, and guilt. And when you are under control of a narcissist, you are brainwashed. I always liken it to being in a cult, being in a two-person cult, where your abuser is the cult leader and you are the follower. And so you're in a constant state of fear. You know that. You're walking on eggshells and you're afraid of how they're going to ignore you or berate you or insult you or any of the myriad of horrible things they do to you. You're obligated to them. You are so controlled and manipulated. You have this obligation, which makes it very hard to leave. And then you have the guilt that goes along with that. When you do leave, you have such a guilt, like, are they going to be fed? Are they getting enough rest? Because you take care of them and because they are able to manipulate you. And so you live with this guilt, and even you have your own guilt related to yourself, which is a whole other video we can talk about another time. But this fog, it actually clears once you get away from the narcissist. It's amazing how quickly it happens. And I'm not talking like it fully clears. It does take a lot of time for it to fully lift, but the signs and the clearness that start coming through are pretty immediate. You'll start thinking of things in a clear, logical manner that you haven't done for however long you've been with your abuser. So this is another reason to physically get away from them. And that's why this step is called ACT, because you're taking action, you are acting, you are moving. This is the physical part of leaving the abuser. Let's review the first 3 of the 5 steps to freedom. Step 1 is identify. We are going to identify that we are in an abusive relationship. Step 2 is accept. We need to accept and understand that we are in a relationship that is not healthy, not good for us. Number 3 is act. We are going to take action. We are going to leave the relationship. We are not going to stay in an abusive relationship any longer. Do you want to know what step 4 is? Well, you're going to have to wait till tomorrow, guys. I'm going to post it tomorrow, and I hope you're excited to watch it. So click on subscribe if you don't already. You can also click the bell notification to get notified as soon as my videos are released. You can always follow me on Instagram for daily motivation posts. Guys, as always, I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.